Let's hear from Fabio himself about his performance on Saturday night.
Obviously, I want to perform. I don't want to just be the guy that loses every round and then pulls it out of the hat every time. That's a bit costly for me, costly for my career, because there's some serious tough guys in this game, and it's not always going to work. So, look, I'm learning on the job. I know I'm 20-odd fights in now, and I've got an interim world title and everything else, but I am still very much learning on the job. I'm trying to figure things out for myself. So, yeah, look, we take that, a great win for what it is, and we go back to the drawing board and we pick it apart. Look, I never, like I said there, I don't profess to be one of the most best and skillful boxers in the world, but one thing I said in the build-up I know how to do is I know how to win fights. One way or the other, last round, 10 rounds, round one, whichever one, I can find a way to win.
Fabio's very frank and honest and doesn't try and dress things up. When you watch that fight, and I had my views on it on Saturday night, I mean, at certain times I thought Fabio was very easy to hit, and I was surprised at times, given the fact that I thought he was very different in the Fraser-Clarke fight. I think it was easy to hit in the Fraser-Clarke fight, but notwithstanding that, I expected a little bit different from Fabio than I saw on Saturday evening. Are we still in the same situation, or are you in the situation where you believe that despite the shortcomings that Fabio might exhibit, and again, the honesty that he puts forward, that he can win a world title?
I think he's very honest and very accurate in where he's at right now, and I think he is an improving fighter, even at 30 years of age, with that lack of amateur pedigree, and he has been learning on the job, and we do see those improvements in every fight, and that proved a difficult night for him. But his main asset, to me, is his will to win and not to lose hope and not to lose heart through a fight. And that makes him a very dangerous guy, and I think that...
But that's great.
But Simon, what I'm saying is, he needs time still. He can't go and win a world title right now.
I understand that, but that's
in 2 or 3 fights, I think it'll be different.
But that's great, and I'm sure no one's doubting his will to win. But is it a fair observation for me to make that if Justis Huni hit it a little bit harder, that Fabio might have found himself in a greater degree of difficulty than he did on Saturday night?
I think so. I really do think so. And I think Justis, all heavyweights can punch. They're big men, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they know what they're doing, but there is heavier punching heavyweights than Justis Huni, and I think Fabio would have been in a lot of trouble if he had been in with one of those guys, just how often and how clean he was being hit. I think there was, after about round 7, and the prediction I made going into the fight was Fabio was going to be behind and then he's going to land a shot and win by KO, so I got it pretty spot on, but after about round 7, I couldn't see a way of him coming back. For me, he looked like he was feeling sorry for himself.
I'm with you, mate.
I thought that as well, yeah.
I thought he was feeling sorry for himself, and then he pulled that one out. But, I mean, he done it, and he's still unbeaten, and his career continues.
Listen, it was one of those that you looked at him and you saw him getting disheartened as the rounds were going on. And I'm with you. After about round 7, when a fighter's walking back to the corner and his head's down low, looking at the floor, he's asking himself questions. That's what I say when I talk about him having a lot of character or showing a lot of character, because there were times there as well he was getting busted up to the body. The body shots were key for Huni in this one. But he just hung in there, man, and that is a quality that you need at that higher level. But what we found out on Saturday night was there's still a long way to go. You know, before he gets to that top echelon of fighters, he's going to...
What do you think Ben Davis has added
they've
to
got to match him right.
What do you think that Ben Davis has added to him? Because, I mean, Fabio spoke on another show earlier on today about that he'd already been told by his trainer that they've got reality in their mind that they weren't going to bank many rounds against Justis Huni, and that ultimately they were going to have to do certain things to win this fight. What do you think Ben has added to him?
Well, see, I was thinking totally different to this one. Before the fight had gone, I said, listen, if Fabio takes it there and takes it and puts it on him early, he could get him out of there early, because I think that stylistically, that's why it should be.
Which is what he tried to do in the first round, didn't he?
Saying that Huni was going to bank rounds early, I thought was quite strange, because I go tactically, I would have been in the other camp and saying, you need to go and pull it on this kid. Don't let him get into a rhythm, get inside and land those shots. Right hand is key, and I think that we would see that if you look through Justis Huni's career, you see that shot he does get caught.
Because I said to you after the fight, my first reaction after watching Justis Huni was he was very happy in defeat. He seemed to be quite happy about the defeat, and I thought to myself, that's a strange one. And the reasons why I make that point is because, is it as much Justis Huni losing that fight as it was Fabio Wardley winning it?
Yeah, I think Justis Huni got a bit too complacent. I think it was too easy for him at a point in that fight, and it was, like I said, Fabio looked like he was starting to feel sorry for himself. Justis was starting to land a little bit more. He looked the fresher out of the two as well, and I think he just got a little bit too overeager. His feet squared up a bit, and Fabio's landed that great, which was a very good shot, by the way. The question you asked about Ben Davis and what does he bring to him?
Yep.
You see the fighters with Ben Davis, and I think he's a great coach, and Lee Wiley and Barry and the guys that really know what they're doing. They feint a lot, and they always try to trigger a reaction from the opponent. But because of Fabio's lack of amateur pedigree and I suppose lack of experience as a pro, because he's had 20 fights but he's only been a pro a number of years, there's nothing, once he does a feint and there is a reaction, it's like he has to think about something coming back, or he has to think about what he does afterwards, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's just down to experience. But like you said, I still think he's an improving fighter.
Yeah, massive.
I do think they're the right coaches for him. I really rate Ben Davison very highly.
Despite all of this and some of the reservations that we are putting on how Fabio should be allowed to develop, do we yet still potentially see him in a world title fight in the next 12 months, given the opportunity to fight Kubrat Pulev, who's someone that he could imminently beat, couldn't he?
Pulev's a great... Pulev's the right route.
He beats him. Yeah. He beats Pulev.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that potentially gets him a world title then, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, WBA regular world title, but that sets him up. Pulev gives him rounds. He's tough, and he gives him rounds, but I'm saying 3 or 4 more fights, Cole, before he...
A couple before, yeah. I mean, if he's looking, if the top 2 at the minute are Daniel and Alexander Usyk, then he's still a few fights off these guys. But again, it's one of them. He's got the dynamite where he could land on either of those 2 and maybe do something as well. But Pulev is a good fight for him, but another couple after that. Yeah. I don't think Pulev gives him rounds, by the way, because I think his style, I think he blows Pulev away pretty early.
I want to go to the undercard, Carl, and one of the fights that I really enjoyed was Pierce O'Leary versus Liam Dillon. Your takeaway from that fight?
I thought Pierce looked good. I thought the scorecards were way too close. I give Dillon 1 round. No disrespect to the kid, he's extremely tough, but he was jumping up 2 divisions against a good fighter in Pierce O'Leary. Done okay, game competitive in most rounds, but the better fighter in the majority of the rounds was clearly Pierce. But the kid Dillon, I mean, I've never seen someone. There was a visible reaction to body shots.
Yeah.
But I've never seen someone recover so quickly from it. He was hurt by about 20 of them. And 3 seconds later, he's thrown back.
He's a tough kid,
extremely tough.
I'm with you. Pierce O'Leary won that fight clearly. The scorecards were a joke, actually. I couldn't believe that. What was it, like 115, 112, 116, 112? Crazy. I think I give Dillon... And it was unfair, really, because I give Dillon maybe 1-2 rounds, and it was like, doesn't really tell the story of the fight, because Dillon was hanging in there showing a lot of heart, a lot of balls. But Pierce O'Leary's class, man. But is he ready for a Dalton Smith?
Well, that's what I was going to ask, Carl. Where does he go next?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But he's going to be criticised because he didn't get rid of a super featherweight, jumping up 2 divisions. So people will criticise him for that. I may get a little bit of stick on social media, and it'll be a weapon that opponents use going forward. You couldn't get rid of a super featherweight, and it might be something that gets under his skin, but it could also be a blessing in disguise because people are starting to think, actually, you can't get rid of this kid. I'll fight you now.
Yeah.
And there may be more opportunities for him off the back of it.
Can I ask you what you both thought about Lewis Richardson's debut? Olympic bronze medalist, going in against Dimitri Protkones. Points victory, slick operator. I felt he didn't really sit down on his punches, and it was a lot more style than substance. But more importantly, what did you 2 think?
Exactly that. I think that, listen, when you get an amateur boxer that's sort of like well-schooled as he is, and, I think that's how he was so successful as an amateur, that transition over, sometimes you've got to make those adjustments. I mean, Richie Woodall's a great example of a guy that can do that and, keep that sort of style and win fights. But he needs to sit down on his shots a little bit more. But when he sits down on his shots, obviously he's taking more of a gamble because he's sitting in the pocket a little bit more, which doesn't suit his style because he's not a big puncher. He's all about speed,
and
movement,
it's unreasonable to expect that on his debut.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It takes time to adjust, right, Carl?
Yeah, of course. It will take time. And there was, you could clearly see, if you didn't know who Lewis Richardson was, you could see that he was a top-level amateur.
Confident lad, yeah.
But he does have to improve going forward and start to fight as a pro, plant his feet a little bit more. There was times, I think his engine was really good.
Yep.
First 6-rounder he's done, and he done it at a breeze, and the work rate was very, very high. But just occasions when he's got the guy on the ropes, he's putting 6 shots together when it could be 2 or 3 big ones.
Right.
But these are things he'll develop, and it just takes a little bit of time.
Are you optimistic for him?
Yeah, I like the kid.
Yeah.
He speaks well, he can fight.
He does, yeah.
Nice guy as well. I think they'll have to fast track him, but be careful as well as they're doing that. But he does need to develop slightly more of a professional style.
Yeah, that's where I think that, when you're saying fast track him, it all depends how quick he can make that transition, but definitely one to watch.
So, as much as Frank Warren wanted to be coy like a carp on Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte, if it is announced, which I suspect it might be,
yeah,
what's your take on this, boys?
I think that announcement is imminent. I think we could see that August 16 out in Saudi Arabia. I think they're the rumours that are circulating anyway, and I think they're quite close to the truth. I think this is brilliant. This is genius matchmaking for Moses Itauma. Because Dillian Whyte is at that stage of his career that he's not the fighter he once was. He's got a great name, and I think, like, listen, Dillian's going to get a great payday for it, and it's a good opportunity for him to put himself back up in the mix. So it's great matchmaking on his side. But for me, Moses Itauma, I think that his style, he wins that fight comfortably.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, like, you're talking about the matchmaking. I think it is because a previous world champion, highly ranked guy, was he a world champion?
No, he wasn't. No, he was interim. WBC
a previously highly ranked guy who's fought some of the top names around. I think it could be a good win on Moses' CV. I do think the style that Dillian has will suit Moses as well, because Moses is very, very neat, very technically gifted, good step backs and counters really well, and Dillian Whyte throws a lot of wide shots.
Why do you think Dillian's taken it? Is it just, I mean, it can't be a tacit acceptance from him of, you know, handing over the baton to the next generation, can it?
I think he'd be taking it for the sole reason that he can see that there's a crop of guys beneath the top two in the division, all vying for that chance to get a shot at the title. Dillian is outside that top crew at the minute, and I imagine it's a big payday for him. You're going to have that, and that's a problem Frank's going to have, to get Moses Itauma opponents until he gets ready to fight for the world title. He's going to have to pay them well.
It's going to be a massive payday, and also for Dillian Whyte, the opportunity to become WBO #1 and put his name back in the mix, and that's the carrot that's being dangled, I believe. That you go, where else does he go? Inactivity's been a big part of his career recently, and you go, yeah, absolutely. So I think it's perfect matchmaking for both guys, really. What do you think?
I think it's good night, Mr. Whyte.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think that the matchmaking's great for him?
Not for Dillian, I don't know. I think it's great for Moses because ultimately he gets a decent name like Dillian Whyte on his resume, which isn't the Dillian Whyte that was fighting 2 or 3 years ago. If he blasts him out, which I think he will, then Moses, the mythology around Moses just gets bigger and wider and more bankable.
There'll be a bit of hype around the fight as well, which will raise Moses' profile too. Yeah.
Another question for you then. So if you say it's not good matchmaking for Dillian Whyte, where would you put Dillian Whyte then? That's what I'm saying. Like, what opportunity is going to come from?
Well, the last time I opened my mouth at Dillian Whyte, I put him in with Fabio Wardley and got smacked around everybody for being a bit of a tit. So I'm not even going to answer that question. Thanks very much.
Brilliant.
How do you see it? In the event that this fight is made, which we all think it will be, I do think it will be Moses Itauma. I do think that he will go through Dillian, and I think he'll go through him compellingly. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm with you.
You think the same?
I just think that, timing is key in boxing. Dillian Whyte's been a great ambassador for the sport. I don't think he's the fighter he once was, and I think that Moses Itauma is something special, and I think he wins quite comfortably.
Yeah, I agree with you, Spencer, and I think it could be early as well. I think he's a very neat, tidy boxer. Moses clearly punches hard, fastest hands in the heavyweight division, I think. I think it could be an early night.
And if it goes the way we all think it will, is this the end for Dillian, and where does it catapult Moses to?
I think, well, for Dillian, you go, where do you go from there? You know, he's boxed at that highest level. He's boxed for the WBC World Heavyweight title against, long-awaited world title shot against Tyson Fury. You go, so where do you go from there when you're losing to the kid that's on his way up? The young prospect. So it's down to Dillian Whyte and what he decides to do, but you just think that once you've worked there, where does the motivation come from,
Well,
Carl?
I have no idea. Unless he's still, receiving decent purses, which I don't know if he would if he lost to Moses afterwards, but I would say it'd probably be the end of the road for Dillian. And there's, he had a good career. Again, another guy with not a lot of amateur experience, so he done quite well. And Moses puts himself close to that bracket of just beneath the top two.
Fascinating. We'll look forward to that fight.